Hello, third years. Today we're starting a new task, which I'm really excited about. You're going to be writing a letter to yourself in the future. So you are going to be writing to your future self, and as if by magic, the title is called Dear Future Self. So let me take you through my thinking on this. So when it comes to writing about yourself, personal writing, some people think of it just like a creative story. And for example, they'll write, say now I ask you to write about a great holiday you've had. And you write about all this fantastic stuff you've done and you include the setting of the beach, blah, blah, blah. And it's all great in this beautiful language. You won't actually do well in personal reflective writing unless you have really looked at yourself and figured out some lessons that you've learnt about yourself in it. So if you take me on this great adventure and describe the culture and everything, unless you tell me how it's changed you, you really won't do that well. So in order to force you into thinking about what it is, what are you worried about? What are your concerns? What are your hopes for the future? What pieces of advice would you like to give yourself? I thought we should forget the story element of personal writing and just write a letter to our future selves. Now, there are two versions of this letter. Some people write letters to their past self. So now I don't tell anyone this, but I am approaching 40. So if I were to write a letter to my past self, I don't know, maybe when I was 14, say, I'd have a lot of advice to give because I've lived a lot. And the reason why I didn't want you to do that is because you were only 15. And so to make it 14, 15, so to make this a decent past self letter, you'd have to be writing to yourself when you were 8 or 7. And when you're 8 or 7, your worries or your fears aren't necessarily, they can be big, but they might be about more kind of day-to-day things like, I don't know, who's sitting next to you at school or whether you're going to pass a school test. So, it's only when you get to where you are now, your age, that your ideas and your feelings and therefore your problems become more complex. And obviously, you're 15, so you're not going to be writing a letter to yourself now, are you? So that's why I thought we could go for the future, because we are in such an odd moment at the minute. This time in our life is never going to happen again, hopefully never happen again, where we live such small lives, slow lives in some respect, and we're disconnected from everyone we love. I think there are real lessons that we could take into our future busy lives, okay? So think about the worries that you have, and maybe you could ask your future self, I've got these worries. Does anything happen with them? They could be the smallest worry or something quite big. You could then maybe from this point, your younger point, give your future self some advice. Say something like, I know you're busy. I know you're worried about deadlines or missing out on stuff, but don't forget that in lockdown, I learned X, Y, Z. For me, for example, I have learned that I used to think that taking things slow and staying in bed for that extra half hour and having all the time in the world would bring me happiness. But in reality, it got boring pretty quick. So next time I'm really busy, I've got too many people to see, I've got to go to 1, 2, 3 places, maybe in a weekend, I'm not going to be stressed about it. I'm just going to be grateful. I'm just going to be grateful. And that's maybe something I would include to a letter to my future self. Another thing, a more trivial thing, is I want to ask my future self, and I don't know if you can notice, I have decided to go grey. I'm sick. I'm absolutely sick of dyeing my hair every 2 weeks. Literally, it's got to every 2 weeks. And even in lockdown, I don't have that kind of time. And I just thought, do you know what? If my hair wants to go white, I'm going to let it. And my mother in particular is going, don't do it. It looks awful. You look 10 years older. It's a terrible idea. And obviously, I don't know if you're like this. Just because she said that, I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it to prove you wrong. So a trivial question I will ask my future self was, did I manage to stick with it? I know it looks terrible just now. Did I manage to stick with it? Or did I just go back to dye my hair every 2 weeks and be miserable? Watch this space. So I'm not asking you to write your letter today. I'm just asking you to gather ideas. So first thing I want you to do is to read a wee example of a Dear Future Self letter and notice the pieces of advice given in it. Notice the fears that I talked about and the hopes. Then I want you to watch a video which there's this girl who has asked for loads of future self letters in, and she's made a video kind of summarizing what all of them seem to be talking about, so you could take inspiration from that and see. I want you to pinpoint which future self problems that she highlighted really spoke to you, and what ones that are worries too. Now, just like the way I just confessed to you about my hair, okay, these letters are personal and they will reveal a lot about you. I treat that with the utmost respect. I consider it a privilege when people share through writing some of their deepest fears and worries, okay? So just like I wouldn't possibly talk to you about my hair, if I'm going to ask you to do that, the least I can do is share to you some of my minor worries in life, and we'll go through it together. So it's an opportunity for you to write a really intimate piece of writing about yourself. And I don't know about you, well, this definitely happens with me. If I've ever got a problem in life, I always write it down, because there's something weird that happens when I write. I suddenly get more ideas. So if I write about some of the issues I've had or I'm having, it's honestly, it's used in therapy to sort of make yourself feel better. So I'm hoping that not only will you get a cracking piece of writing out of it, that scores really well because it's great reflective writing. I'm also hoping it makes you feel better as well. So yeah, we're in a lockdown, but what pieces of advice would you give to your future busy self, having learned all this in lockdown, seen life from a different perspective? Don't worry, folks, I'm not going to ask you to do the whole letter today. As I said, it's just having a look at some ideas that are out there. Hope you have a good day. See you soon.